what tonight is all about is just sharing those mistakes with you so that you don't have to make those mistakes, just like I did in an early teacher. So how many first-year teachers? Awesome, that's my specialty. How many people have been teaching for more than a year? Okay, more than 2 years? More than 3? Okay, cool, perfect. That's absolutely perfect for tonight. So this is our agenda. The time estimations are for me. They're just to keep myself on track. If you probably, if you've taught before, you know that will help you in the future. But this is our agenda. So the whole thing should take about an hour. So this is just a basic outline of what we're going to be doing tonight. Cooking steak. You're probably wondering why this is here. It's not. But the analogy that I like to make for managing a classroom is, so most of you are brand new teachers, right? And I'm guessing you didn't go into teaching because you like managing a classroom, you like student discipline and setting up routines. You probably went into teaching because you care about kids, you feel like you connect with students, you feel like you have a gift in some way for connecting, for teaching, for explaining, right? The analogy that I make is, that's like saying that because you can cook a steak, you can manage a restaurant, right? They're two completely different things. And anybody who's ever been in a classroom knows that, right? So just because you can cook a steak doesn't mean that you can manage a restaurant. So tonight is about managing a restaurant and obviously managing a classroom. So let's talk quickly about that.
Will we also learn some steak techniques?
Not tonight. Not tonight, but that's a great question. Maybe we'll put that on the agenda for next week's. And I actually don't know how to cook steak, so I can't help you. What are your goals for today? So let's talk about that. So maybe just turn to somebody next to you or near you and just tell them why you're here and what you're hoping to achieve. Okay. Maybe just take a second to read this silently to yourself. You've probably seen it before, something similar. Okay, what does this mean to you? Maybe someone can share.
The left is the house I grew up in. And the right is what I aspire to now.
Interesting. Okay, anybody else?
The teacher said learning is very facts-based, definite things that are right or wrong. The student-centered learning is more skills-based, teaching them how to figure things out for themselves and hope that they get to the right facts.
More experiential, maybe? Anything else?
Yeah, I think the teacher-centered learning is really what has generally been prior, where the teacher's pretty much in the front of the room, just doing facts as we mentioned, and it's more rote learning for the students. Whereas the student-centered, it's more inquiry-based. There's a lot of hands-on activities involved where, as mentioned, as showing that the students really have to figure out for themselves, whereas teachers pretty much just kind of guiding, so to speak. Yes, exactly.
Absolutely. Great. So everybody's sort of seen this. Go ahead.
Yeah, something I like today, I just wanted to add to what you were saying, so hands-on. Also trying to get the students to be mindful as well.
Definitely. Okay. So, good. We're all sort of the same track.
Cool.
Last one.
This is very, very difficult. This is easy.
Explain. Say a little more
The
about
further you go towards the student-centered learning, the more you're going to have classroom management, the more your lessons going to have
Yes.
to be. Basically, this, in other words, you don't just wait and say, oh, I'm going to be student-centered. Okay? This is work.
Oh, thank you. We're done. I'm going to go home. Very, very excited. Absolutely. So he's absolutely, what's your name? Sorry.
Okay.
Ken. So Ken is absolutely right. If you haven't learned that lesson yet, you will. It's much more difficult to do student-centered learning. This workshop tonight is going to be right smack in the middle. It's going to be, we're going to do some things from this side and some from this side. And the reason for that is because that's what's most effective, honestly. You're going to find that there's a time and a place that you need to be teacher-centered, and there's going to be a time and a place where you need to be student-centered. And we'll talk about that. the basic overall what you should be doing each week of the first month of school. So week 1, you want to focus on either, some people call it the class constitution. If you want to be more student-centered, it's called the class constitution. Also called rules. Any kind of community building activities, getting to know each other activities, some called team building, and the absolutely essential routines. We'll talk about each one of those on. If you think that you're going to teach all of your routines the first week of school, especially if you teach lower grades. If you teach kindergarten, it takes like 3 hours to get them to take a pencil out. Week 2, you can be reviewing the rules and previously taught routines. You can introduce some light content, especially if upper grades, teach upper grades, and more essential routines. Week 3, you can start introducing even more content, more essential routines, and keep revisiting the previously taught routines. And don't worry, we're going to talk about them. Okay, so these, again with the teacher and the student center. I've done both. Okay, so student-centered rules is like creating a classroom constitution. It's a huge process, right? Is anyone familiar with the process of creating rules? Okay, I'm seeing some nods. So if you decide that you want to create your rules as a class, use a resource. Responsive Classroom I found to be the best resource for creating those. They tell you exactly what to do. The problem, and it's great, okay, it's great. The problem is it takes a really long time. So if you're at a school that really needs you to start instruction really quickly, which is most schools this day and age, right? Unless it's a private school, it's going to be difficult for you to create the rules as a class. Just because it takes so much, it takes weeks. So you might want to consider doing more teacher-centered. Either way, so whether it's teacher or student, both of them, there's a lot of things that they have in common. So both of them address safety, belonging, and learning. So that's what you want your rules to always address: safety, belonging, and learning. Belonging, well, safety is safety. Belonging is basically how the student feels about themselves, how the student treats others, how the students feel about others. Basically the sense of community, right? Common rules that address belonging might be nice, right? Or be respectful, treat others as you would like to be treated, things of that nature. There should be 3 to 5, that's the magic number. And they should be framed in the positive. Does anyone know what I mean by that? Okay, who wants to explain? I'm talking too much as usual. Go ahead.
It means like don't have, it means say what they should do, not what they shouldn't do.
Absolutely. Does anyone have an example?
More quietly.
Yes. Instead of do not run. Or keep your hands and feet to yourself instead of do not kick or punch, which is what they kids always say. You should not kick or punch people. I'm like, obviously. So this is going to be, raise your hand if you don't have a pen. Maybe not have a pen. Awesome. You're a very prepared bunch. So this is going to be the first assignment. What is the time of the day that you feel most frazzled? I think it says on, in this big gray box. So here, for this part, we're just going to take a minute. Just think about, even if this is your first year teaching, you've all either student taught or been in front of the class, right? So you have an idea of the most stressful time of the day. So just write down the time of the day or the routine or something that just irks you to the core. Something that just makes your face turn red, makes you start sweating, that just annoys you and ruins like the next hour of your day. If you don't have any ideas, I can give you some, because I have plenty. If you have an idea, raise your hand. You don't have to share. Okay, if you don't, let's do it this way. If you don't have an idea, raise your hand. You need help. Okay. So just take a minute and just write down. If you're done, you can write more than one down. It's fine. Actually, let's hear from some of you. Go ahead.
So it's texting you.
Texting? Goodness, what a different world. I taught elementary school for many years, by the way, and all the coaching that I did was mostly in elementary school, so I just can't even, so different. What else?
Getting up and just not doing what you're told to do.
Okay, so just not following directions. But you said getting up too.
Yeah,
That's
that was
good.
the first thing, too.
That's good, because that's specific.
Yeah.
You can control that. Go ahead.
Oh, when they sit on their desk instead of the seat.
Oh, you guys are giving me hives just thinking about it. Go ahead.
Transition from either gym or lunch.
Transitions are a mess. Go great.
Fifth.
Go ahead.
Students not talking.
Wait, oh, you mean not like,
Students not talking.
because you're ESL,
I'm
right?
an ESL teacher, so my MOSA score is literally based on the test where they have to talk, which also puts me in direct opposition to the content teacher, where you get my English teacher.
So not feeling comfortable talking, so just being silent, you're saying, when you call them?
Yeah, just being silent, or like, this is not the sound period, but I'm not going to.
Interesting.
I feel like there's a time in mid-morning when students get restless and want to check out, and then they start to talk or hit each other, get up.
When technology is not working correctly.
Can't relate, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead. You can bullshit, yeah.
I was going to just say constant talking in the morning, like when they first come in, before the morning meeting.
So when they're not supposed to be talking?
Yeah.
Okay, so now what we're gonna do is take that behavior and turn it into a positive behavior. I'll give you an example. So, two of you said talking when they're not supposed to be talking, right? So instead of saying no talking, you could say silent during silent time, right? Or you can make it even broader and say follow directions. Because if the directions were not to talk, then you shouldn't be talking. I'm trying to give other examples. So you were saying checking out, right? So like zoning out. Instead of saying no zoning out, you can say stay focused during lessons. I'm trying to give other examples. So we were talking, I was talking like, what's her name? Marianne? Yeah. About, she's a science teacher, God bless her. Science is great, but it's a lot of work because you have to clean up the materials if you're getting it, you know, one sixth grade class after another. So which means that you have 5 minutes, right, to transition. So a big fear that you might have is that students are going to be, it's cleanup time and they're like running around being crazy and they're not cleaning up properly and then they leave and then you have a new group come in and the materials aren't ready. So framing that in the positive would be to say clean up properly or be safe with materials, right? So just take a minute and see if you can frame what you just said about your pet peeve or the worst part of your day into positive language. Let's have 3 people share. I'll make sure we have enough time. Anyone brave enough?
Alright, one of the ones I wrote down was start, be silent right away, or ask a question if you're confused.
Cell phones are off and away during instruction.
That's right, because yours was about texting. Anyone else?
Instead
You're
of
ESL, right? Or pull out?
email.
Okay.
Instead of no getting out of your seats, it would be stay seated unless called on.
That's great. Okay, so when you make your rules, you're going to make sure that you frame in positive language. The handout that I gave you involves you listing all of the positive behaviors that you want to see. And then we're not going to do this right now because, by the way, this workshop could easily be a day. I mean, I'm not even kidding. Like I told my mom, she's a teacher, I told my mom I'm doing a 1-hour workshop on the first 30 days of school, and she like didn't understand. Like, I don't know. She's like, I don't get it. I've done entire PDs just on how to give directions. I'm not kidding. So this is sort of like an abbreviated, not abbreviated, this is an accelerated version. So the rule planning you're going to do on your own. But it involves listing all the desired behaviors and framing in positive language, and then putting it sort of into categories, which I think you can probably do. And with regards to safety, learning, and belonging. And these are some examples if this helps. These are just some things, some examples of rules that in case you are drawing a blank for whatever reason. I need to read all of them. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Just a quick question.
Yes.
Do you suggest creating the rules prior to the first day or using the students to have some input?
I would say, depends what grade.
Third.
You can do sort of a mix of both. I like to do them beforehand, personally. I just feel like, and it's like in a perfect world, you could create the rules with the class. They generally say the same things that you say anyway. So you can sort of elicit responses from them, be like, you know, you can fake it and be like, oh, but it doesn't feel safe. What rule can we have about safety? Ooh, should we listen to that? Ooh, that's good. Listen to the teacher. I don't know. You can sort of do it with them in that way. But either way, I would have an idea of what you want the rules to be in your head. And that way, if you elicit responses from them, you know whether they're on track with what you had in mind. But I would recommend at least thinking about it beforehand, the very, very least. So this is routine planning. This is the meat of the first 30 days, and it's also the least exciting part. So nobody likes routine planning, including myself, and I'm a super nerd about this kind of thing. Routine planning isn't fun, but routine planning gets you way ahead of the game and prevents so many problems from happening. If you do this right, your classroom basically runs itself, and you don't have to manage as much. If you don't do this right, and I'll tell you a story, my mom, it's 2 stories now that I'm telling about my mom, why. My mom had been teaching in New York City schools for like 15 years, and she went to a private school, and she thought like the kids were like super well behaved and gifted, and they would know how to act. No, they did not. She spent the entire year like reteaching simple things like walking instead of running, you know, listening to the teacher, not talking back. So the lesson that basically she learned, and that you will not learn because you're going to do this, is no matter who the kids are, they need to be taught routines and they need to practice them regularly to get them right. And it will save you a ton of time and energy and heartache and sadness and anger. All of those great things. These are common routines. These are not all of the routines. These are just the most common routines. So if you're in upper grades, they're honestly very similar. The difference is going to be how much you have to break the directions down. So if you're on this side, you have to break it down a whole lot, sorry. If you teach high school, you don't have to break it down as much, but you still have to have the same expectations. Oh, it's in your worksheet. Sorry.
And if you're in middle school, you're in between.
If you're in middle school, in between, definitely. So, at this point, choose a routine. And we're going to just plan the first part of it, not the whole thing, just the first part of it. I would suggest something simple if you're a new teacher. So examples might be like if you are looking for a simple routine, packing or unpacking is probably not the way to go. What's active listening? Active listening is like if you teach lower grades, you have, believe it or not, you have to teach kids how to listen. You have to teach them how to show that they're listening, right? So a kindergartner or a first grader, they're like, I am listening when they're doing like a back bend and singing their favorite song. You know, like they don't understand that you should be sitting and you should be looking, you should be quiet. So if you're a pull-out teacher, then your routine might be how to come to you when it's time for them to come to you. How to return to the classroom. So you're probably familiar with this. Does anybody want to explain it? Maybe you're not. I don't know. When I was in school, that's all we talked about. It's a long time ago. Go ahead.
This is, I do, we do, you do. So it's explain very explicit instructions, then do some guided stuff together as a group, and then kind of cut them loose in groups or hopefully pairs or whatever, and then work on their own, so it's better retaining long-term memory.
pretty much scaffolding.
Yep, scaffolding. So this is you guiding students towards independence in whatever skill it is that you're teaching them, whether it's content or whether in this case it's routines. So in this case, we teach routines the exact way that you would teach content. First, you present the directions and whatever it is that you want them to do. Then you have a student or a group of students model it. You watch it and you sort of do it together. Then the whole class does the routine, and then eventually they can do it by themselves because they know exactly what to do and they've practiced it many times. Okay, here comes the planning process. So, the first thing that you need to do before you plan a routine is you have to decide what you expect. As simple as it sounds, a lot of people don't think this through. You have to decide exactly what you want. So if what you want, let me think of an example. I think I have one on the paper, but so what you want is for, I'll give the active listening example, is for students to look at you and listen and be quiet. I'm talking about K, 1, 2, 3, 4. High school, hopefully, well, maybe. Is it okay if they're sitting up on their knees? This is something you have to decide. Is it okay if they're touching somebody? Is it okay if they're sitting in a chair next to the row, right? Is it okay if they make little noises? They will. And it's usually not okay. It's definitely not okay with me. Is it okay if they are playing, this is a big one, playing with the carpet, right? If you teach lower grades, they're going to be sitting there like this, playing with the carpet the entire, is that okay? If they're still listening. So you have to decide what's okay with you and what's not, whatever your routine is. If your routine is lining up, is it okay if if they find their own blind spot? Is it okay if they're touching people? Is it okay if they touch people with their feet? Is it okay if they're talking? Some teachers are okay with it. So whatever your routine is, write out, just free form, just write out exactly what you're picturing, like in a perfect world with perfect kids, what that would look like. Like it's your dream. This is your dream of teaching because you're doing everything you want them to do. What does that look like? Okay. Who wants to, let's have two people share just the narrative, just describing what the perfect world of the kids following directions.
Okay, so I'm teaching 7th and 8th graders, and when the class is already running, for whatever reason, a student would come in late. Okay, this is what I want that student to do. Into the room, I don't want them to talk to anybody. I don't want them to give anybody high fives. I want them to go directly to their seat. I'm thinking of saying that I'm teaching math, I'm thinking of saying they can only make 90-degree turns. Like a soldier. Okay? They're going to be silent, and then they're going to sit down, and they're going to take out a pencil, and they're not going to say anything. I'm not going to ask her to do now that they missed, or Mr. can have a paper or whatever, they're going to sit and wait. And I will come to them and give them what they need to get up to speed. That's what I would like to have.
Anyone else?
I mean, what they're actually doing is they're going to walk next to me like maybe.
It's like the club on a Friday or payday. Yeah.
He summed it up perfectly, but there was a lot of things not to do.
Right.
Is that-
Well, you wouldn't frame it that way to the kids.
Yeah, that's what I want.
Right, that's what you want, right.
Translation.
But that's a good point. Yeah.
I'm listening, I'm doing 7th and 8th grade math too, so I'm listening to every word he says.
Oh, interesting. You guys should talk. Okay. Anyone else?
So mine is about passing papers out to the class, and so ideally I'm able to just like give the stack to like the first row, like first set or pair of desks in rows, and they immediately take one and quickly turn and pass it back, not throwing it at the students behind them. And silently take one, pass it back, and then put their names on the top right away.
Oh,
So
okay. I actually have a good piece of advice for you, my friend.
Okay.
Here's what it is. Same everything that you just said, except have them pass it across. You know why? Do you know why? Well, because you can see. If they're passing it back, they're giving the finger, they're doing all kinds of ridiculous things. They don't anticipate, they have to look backwards like this, they could drop it. If they pass it this way, you can see everything that happens. Just a little tidbit. Okay, so we're ready to go, but everything else, yes, spot on. And I love the writing your name on paper first, then you have to worry at the end, whose is this, whose is this, whose is this. It's a ton of that time. Okay, we're ready to write our directions now. This part's hard. Sequential. So obviously they should go in order, they should be numbered. It should be concise. So everything that you just said, you just gave a narrative, you're not going to obviously write those directions down for the kids, for the students. The ones that you write down and chart out and teach to the kids are going to be just one quick sentence. And observable. So for example, you don't want to say, if you're having the students pack up, for example, right? You don't want to say something like, this part's a little more complicated. If you say, put your folder, your book baggie, and your something in your backpack and zip it up, right? Is that observable? It seems like it is, right? But how are you going to check that they have all those things? So a better way to make it observable is to say, get your book baggie, and get your, what else did I say? Folder? Short-term memory. And hold it up. And then you can look and see that they have it and then give them the okay. Something like that. So just make it observable. Make your directions so that you can see whether or not students are complying. I feel like I confused you. Did I confuse you? Alright, so are you ready to write your directions? Sure. So they can be 3, I put 5 down, but they don't have to be 5 steps, they can be 3. They can be 2, they can be as many as you want, but 5 is really the most that the brain supposedly can retain at one time. So take a stab at, I think that's right, take a stab at writing your directions. Okay, anybody brave enough to share? Go ahead.
I'm going to talk this type of feedback. I wrote down what to do, what students should do if their pen starts to leak, because I had the issue where they don't do anything and then they do all their stuff. So I figured I'd start with rule number 1, raise your hand and wait till called on. That way I just get enough to complete stuff. Rule number 2, get a tissue right away and wrap the pen. Number 3, just throw it away. Then do with it.
What grade is this?
5th and 7th grade.
Okay.
You fit both of them again. Walk back to your desk, pick up where you left off, and no communicating along the way.
Do they have a new pen?
A previous instruction is always with backup pens.
Okay. Okay. Hopefully you don't have to use
Lost
them.
backup.
I'm like, how often does your pen leak when these kids are having new pens that they buy?
You think you would be using that often, but...
You might, you know what might be a good idea is if you put that routine together with what to do if you need a new pen. Just like, you know what I mean? Because that's going to happen all the time. Or like if you need a new pencil and then you have a little cup full of pencils and they have to get a new one. So the same rule would apply if they have a broken pencil or something like that. I like that.
It's nice.
Anyone else? Go ahead. You can walk out.
Mine's for 9th grade and having to go to the bathroom. Wait until you are, so I don't want them to interrupt while I'm trying to give some instruction to ask if they can go to the bathroom. So I'm trying to frame it positively. Positive framing, wait until you're working on something to ask to use the bathroom. Raise your hand and wait for me to call on you. When you come back, give me the key, because we use keys. Give me the key and quietly return to your seat.
What grade is this?
9th grade.
Okay.
And then, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
My concern is that, like, I've never taught 9th grade, I've taught 1st grade, and I don't want to be giving them, like, baby directions. So if there's any, like, I don't know how explicit I need to be with this age group. If there's any,
You'll be surprised. The one thing that I would say, and probably anybody who's taught upper grades, I would still use a bathroom signal. But here's why. Does anybody know why?
What's a bathroom signal?
like this is the signal you use, or like, you know, this. You know, but you would think it would be too babyish, but there's reason. Does anybody know why I'm saying just to use bathroom signals?
You'll be asking an academic question, and someone's going to interrupt and say,
Right, it breaks the flow of what you're at. Even think about it, even if you're leaning and if you're working with, even if it's work time, 'cause it has to be work time, that's your rule, right? So even if it's work time and you're leaning, you're working with a student, you have to interrupt to go to this kid who's like has to go to, what is it? He's shouting across your mic, you're bathroom and it interrupts everybody. If they just go like this, you can say, or, which is what I do all the time. But I really have to go.
Can I give a suggestion about that?
Okay.
So in my school, what we have is like a hook where the key is, so they can like sign in, like sign out every time they go to the bathroom, because we have like a limit of time, so they can go out. So instead of talking to you, they just like sign their name and then take the key and go.
So they're allowed to get up out of their seat?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's up to you to decide if that's, I would be, that you're a great woman. Go ahead.
I mean, to piggyback on that, we did the signal only because if we're doing during the Q&A session with the students, and the students are asking each other questions, Socratic or whatnot, and they raise their hand, and you're thinking they have the answer, and it's, no, I need to go to the bathroom.
And then you get into it with them, and everybody's listening, the back and forth.
Just go to class.
Yeah.
So then giving a signal like, I need to go drink water, because we have a water fountain in the back. I need to drink water, or number two, I need to go to the bathroom. You already know. And usually when I see this, I'm like, no, put your hands down, later. You know, you just tell them to bring their hands down, signal them to bring their hands down, and go to the next student.
And if you want them to still sign out too, that could be a part of the process anyway.
Yeah. I think in high school they have, it's pretty much standard that they have to.
So it can be a safety thing too.
Yeah, it definitely is a safety thing.
I was going to share, we do both. For safety, all the grades have to sign out, but you don't put your hand up until you see if the path is there to go. And we have the poster up to remind people what the signal looks like if you need to use it. So all three of those to cover.
Everybody hear that?
Sure.
Okay.
I just want to tag on to that. Also, when they sign up, it gives you regularity. Meaning that if you do it too much, you know that this is something you can
And the time you could do,
And then some places to have like first 15 or last 15 minutes we can.
Yeah, so decide when it's okay for them to go to the bathroom and decide what the signal is.
Yeah, like, I don't know, I just popped in my head and sort of, I think what was getting at back there, like having like in an airplane, like the pilot puts on the,
Ooh, I like that.
and opens up the camera, you're free to go to the bathroom now or something. Switch it.
Yeah, that's a great idea. You just have to remember to switch
Yeah,
it.
the seatbelts.
But somebody was mentioning also, someone said something that I wanted to say something about, I can't remember what it was now. Oh, about charts. So I think I talk about this in the next slide. Whatever routines you have with directions, if you're giving kids, if it's a common routine that they're gonna use all the time, chart it out and in a nicer way than what my chart looked like, but make a chart of it and post it in the room. And you don't have to have them, I mean, in elementary school, you're gonna have them all over the room because kids really genuinely forget, they don't remember what their name is, let alone like how to, ask to go to the bathroom. But in upper grades, you can have like an easel and just keep them all on the easel, and when it's time, you just flip to that particular routine to refresh their memory. And then just have the essential ones all over the room, or the more complicated ones. But I would definitely chart your routines and keep them posted. So you don't have to constantly explain yourself, you could just point to the chart when the kids ask these ridiculous questions.
I'm kind of like, I float from different rooms, so I'm not sure I can even keep stuff up, and I'm not sure it's practical to go in and put the charts up every day. So,
do you have a rolling card, or you just take your like a bag?
I don't know.
Can you roll up charts?
Probably.
And then just like pin them up?
Like every day.
Maybe in the beginning.
You can be in high school, right?
Yeah.
They'll understand basic routines.
They'll understand basic routines. Take the trickier, but it's 9th grade. The more complicated routines, I would chart and bring with you in case you need to refer to them. Okay. In case it's a hot mess and you need to go back. Yeah. Go ahead.
For like, as a first year teacher, do you have any tips to help you keep track of your own, like the routines you're giving to the students, like for you to remember?
Write them out.
Write them out.
Yeah, write them all out. Honestly, and I taught for 10 years, every single year I wrote out all my routines, I swear. I'm not just saying this because I have to, I really did. It makes you feel so calm. And they were also just charted and distributed around there.
And after a while, the students themselves, they'll call you out on it. We missed the step, we need to go back.
Oh yeah, and it's always the kid who doesn't follow directions. I'm like, oh, they decided to join us. Like, he knows every routine somehow, but doesn't follow it. Okay, I want to make sure we have enough time. Is it okay if I move on? All right, Miss D. So the reason I chose this image, it's funny, I typed into Google powerful posture, and it was like 20 pictures of Beyonce and then 10 of Wonder Woman. So I chose this one. So why, I wonder? Does anybody who thinks they know why I chose this picture and what we're about to talk about?
It's relatable.
It's relatable, but what about her presence and what she's doing is important too.
Your rules should be standing still, 6 feet planted.
Yep. So nobody wants, and this is so funny, you don't think about this stuff. I mean, I didn't think about this, but when you're saying something important and you're doing, you don't realize what I don't know what your tells are, I know what my tells are. So this is what I do when I'm nervous. I slouch, I touch my hair, my voice goes up, you know, like that, and it sounds informal. It sounds like what I'm saying is not important, and you can listen or you cannot listen, right? It's like I'm talking to somebody about, you know, the tapas place that I went to over the weekend. Which is the opposite of this image that we have here. So if you want to command authority and you want the kids to listen to you when you're giving directions, stand still, square up, like fix your body, plant your feet down, stop moving your hands, which is what I do all the time. If you need to, put them behind your back, which is usually a really helpful hint. And this is what I did, channel somebody powerful. So think about somebody that you know that has a really powerful presence. And actually, I have a good story for you. When my first year of teaching, I had planned all my routines like a good little girl, and I had like charted everything, my room looked perfect, everything was good to go. And the kids came in and didn't listen to anything that I said for 8 hours of the day. Like they just did not listen to anything that I said. They were running, I mean, like it was a disaster. So I kept hearing about LaShonda down the hall, who you went in there and 100% of these kids were on point. And she wasn't even mean. Like she just had that presence, right? So I went and I observed her and I watched everything that she did and I just like took notes. I think there was actually a video even going around, like administration had taped her. And I just started copying her. And I realized it was the way that she carried herself and the way that she spoke that commanded authority. And when I started doing what she did, the kids started listening. So it didn't have to do with her and building a relationship or anything like that. It was that when she spoke, she expected the kids to listen. She squared up, she walked around, she looked at them, she stopped after she said something important, and she looked around to see if they were all listening, right? If she had to correct somebody, she would go, I'm trying to give an example. So she would say something like, fold your hands. This was like a kindergarten or first grade class. Fold your hands, like that. And the kids would all fold their hands and she would walk. And she would go like this to the kid that didn't. And she would go like this to the kid that didn't, right? And because she had that authority and that presence, they listened. Whereas somebody like me, I was like, okay, everybody, it's time to fold our hands. Oh, I don't see people folding their hands. Oh no, Michaela, I told you to fold your hands. No, you're not supposed to. Everybody's supposed to be folding your hands, guys. I'm so over it. I want to go home. videotaping yourself. That's what I recommend. Before the start of school, write out directions to your routines, and then set up your phone and actually videotape yourself. I think this is our next slide. It's in the final slide, actually. This is sort of similar. So while the kids, all right, so you give the directions. I'll talk about the videotape in a second. While you give the directions, you tell them to go try it, right? While that's happening, notice everything like LaShonda did. Narrate the positive. So I see a lot of people, almost everyone's holding their hands. Good. Leave them up. Good. Everybody's holding their hands. Boom. Remember to be cool and calm. Even if 80% of the kids are not following directions, you look like Beyonce. Remember the picture of Beyonce? I can't even do it. Like, no matter what, you are cool, you are calm, you are in control. If you start to break down and start to get flustered and nervous, they feel like there's nobody in charge here. I guess I'm in charge, right? And then they start to fend for themselves. So you want to make it super clear that you've got this. Don't worry. You're calm, you're cool, you're collected. Even if you have to copy somebody, even if you have to meditate inside of your head, stay calm. Also, don't engage with any kind of misbehavior. So any kid, like what I was saying about what LaShonda did, she would whisper in, do whatever you gotta do, just look at somebody when you're walking by. Don't call people out in front of their friends, not the first week. Not the first anything. And describe the positive as much as possible. Sorry, I'm trying to get through this quickly to 7:36. Build, this is another great trick, build momentum. So before when I said, almost everybody's holding their hands, only waiting on one, good, and everybody's holding their hands. You're describing an atmosphere where everybody's following directions and getting closer to the finish. Rather than saying, we're still waiting on some people, guess I'm still waiting. If you see somebody who's not folding their hands, please tell, it's like you're describing that where kids are not following directions, and that's what they're hearing. So they're like, I guess we're not following directions, right? So just build momentum towards positive. When this is all done, so as kids are practicing, as kids are following the routines, afterwards, like I said, no reprimanding, no consequences. Don't give consequences. Some people, if you go to like Success Academy or something, they give consequences on the first day. I actually taught there for 3 years. There's good things and bad things, more than that. But they do believe in giving consequences. I don't. You don't know the kids yet. You have no idea what their issues are. You don't know what's them purposely, being defiant, and what's them just not understanding. You don't know them. Don't give them consequences the first week. And I'm a pretty strict teacher, and I really feel strongly about that. If they don't comply, so if you say, stand up and push in your chair, that's a pretty simple direction, right? You say, stand up and push in your chair, you model it, they do it. There's 3 kids that weren't paying attention and don't do it, have them do it again. Don't be mean about it, like, oh, I guess you have to do it again. Just, all right, perfect, that was almost perfect, let's do it again. Let's get 100% this time, okay? You want them to get used to the idea that 100% of kids follow the directions. And then you want them to feel that feeling. Display the charts, reset when necessary. So in January, you're going to have to reteach some things.
We'll have a whole session on that.
And, okay. Take 10 minutes every day to reflect and replan. Every day, think about that part of the day where your face was red and you were losing your mind, and figure out how you can fix it. Because if the first week there's a moment where you're losing your mind, that's going to happen every single day. Whatever that routine was, if it was pack up, if it was dismissal, whatever it was, it's not going to fix itself. You have to fix it. Lose the ego. If you're a new teacher, it's not going to go the way you planned it. You're not going to be a great teacher the first year, probably. And I'm not trying, I was a terrible teacher the first year. And then I got better and better and better. You're not supposed to be good. You're supposed to be okay at best. But the important thing is that you're reflecting and you're trying to get better every day. Guys, like, I promise you, you're going to be great. You have to be reflective. You have to promise that you're going to get better every day. And if you do that, you'll be great. And I'm 100% confident in that. Watch a video of yourself. It's gonna be awful, just do it, trust me. And then these are resources that have helped me tremendously, especially Teach Like a Champion, whether you're upper grades or lower grades. It comes with videos, so they teach you techniques, and then you can actually watch videos of teachers doing that. I think it's like, you can order it on Amazon. I don't remember how much it is, but it's worth every penny. I still have mine, I have notes, I have papers in it, everything. Responsive Classroom is more student-centered. So if you are a student-centered teacher, read all Responsive Classroom materials. It's super, super, super helpful. Yep. You can get resources on these websites, but it's honestly, if you can buy the books, I would buy the books. Success Academy has some pretty good resources. Remember, love the kids, even when you don't. Even when in your head, you're like, I am going to pick this kid up and throw him across the room. Outside, it should be a smile, and maybe not a smile. Outside, you should be cool, calm, collected, and think of them when you really want to lose your mind. Picture a little version of yourself, or picture your child, or picture your cousin, whoever you have to picture to remember this is a child, right? You're just a kid. And these are, if you want to use these are some ideas for how to build community on the first week of school. There's some really great suggestions. And I know I'm way over time, and I'm very, very sorry. I hope that you guys found this helpful. There is a Q&A. I will be here. If you have questions, I would say just I'll be here. I don't want to keep everybody for question and answer because we're already way behind time. And there are surveys, just FYI. I know most of you won't have time since I talk too much as usual. But if you can, this is for me. So I'm trying to do this full time. I'm trying to just do professional developments in schools. I love it. And it's like what I've been wanting to do since I started teaching. So I'm actually trying to get better. So if you have any suggestions, that would be awesome. If not, it's totally fine.
If nothing else, if